long straights with a couple of corners in the middle. But when you actually look at the technicalities of it, especially like I said with those curves, is actually there's a lot more to it than people I think first realise.
Yeah, I think it's definitely one of them tracks, as you say. It's a bit understated in its technicality because, as you say, there's not that much to it regarding, there's not that many corners. But as you see there, Jordan Brennan, just a little bit of slide there in the hairpin just to get the car rotated, but it meant it was straight for the left-hander straight away afterwards. So, yeah, it's one of them that is discreetly technical, if you like. Drivers can lose a lot of time where they don't really know where they're losing it over the drivers that are a second and a half up the road. And they go, well, it's only however many corners, and yet I'm losing this amount of time. How is that possible? And it's all about maximising the drive out of corners and keep maximum momentum through corners where, little blips of traction control or little sideways moment is going to cost you absolutely massive.
I think that's the thing, is it? And the key word you said there is momentum. These cars do have a lot of power, but at the same time, you've still got to... Oh, that's someone having a small excursion. That was a blue car. That could have been Mick Sutton potentially. No, it was Simon Reed that had a moment through there. Momentum. That's such a key word that you said there, and I'm glad you said it, because even in cars that have got quite a lot of power, you've still got to make sure that you're able to carry the speed through corners, especially again, as we said, with a track such as Snetterton 200. Got Robbie Stapleford currently on your screen at the moment. He hasn't actually put a quick lap in yet. These are all just outlaps coming through. Obviously, Brennan is currently on top with a 1:15.425, with Alex Toth-Jones not too far behind, but I'm sure Stapleford is going to be up there with the rest of them. And it's a smaller grid today, but as we saw last week, there's some close racing going on. It's very, very close at the front of the field. Oh, he goes very, very sideways. Well, to say sideways, he goes completely off track. And that was pretty much a perfect example of what you were saying, Dave. If you take these curbs wrong, that's cost him probably 2/10, maybe more.
Even more so. It's actually costing them a lap, because I imagine that'll probably also make the lap invalid. So not only has he lost valuable time there, there's another lap he's got to now do on the tyres. Another lap's worth of fuel out the tank. That's not the sort of thing that Robbie's probably wanting to do here. Robbie has set the time screens alight in practice. He's set the top time, but he's got to do that in qualifying here. He's got a good chance to create a bigger gap here in round 3 going into round 4, open up that gap on Jordan Brennan. But unless if he can put this lap in qualifying, which is when it matters, that means he just has to do that work on the grid, which, let's face it, it's easier to do it now than when you're directly wheel to wheel with another car.
This is true. This is very true. Again, you've got to make sure. I mean, there's plenty of time left. You've got 10 minutes and 40 seconds. There's a lot of time left to be had. Tom O'Farrell just going through Coram at the moment, and then into Murray's again, just balancing on the throttle. You can just see there the steering wheel. He's very, very aggressive going into Murray's, which is interesting. Again, it depends as well. I suppose you want to slow it cool. You want to try and load up the car as much as possible. What's his time going to be? Currently he's in P4. Has he improved? He has indeed. Only about a 10th behind Max Edmondson, who's currently in P3. So there we go. There's the time. Robbie Stapleford couldn't quite get the time together last time out. He's definitely managed to get it this time around. So he is just under a 10th behind Jordan Brennan. But with 10 minutes to go, I think we should probably talk about one of the biggest championships I think the VRRC has actually ever held, and it's going to be League of Champions. Now, we had League of Champions 1 not too long ago. It seems like 5 minutes ago, actually, but to be fair, when you look at it, it spanned quite a while, actually. It went very, very quickly. But League of Champions 2 is on the way.
It is indeed. I was wondering whether you were going to hint at League of Champions 2 there, but no. Straight at it, yeah, I mean, we're up to a massive prize pool now of £20,000, which is absolutely massive. And I think, I could be wrong, Dan, but I think it's probably got to be one of the biggest prize pools going in sim racing at the moment. So, huge prize pool, 4 disciplines of car, 2 rear-wheel drive, 2 front-wheel drive, trying to cater for all sorts of drivers, and prizes in both individual championships as well as an overall league prize as well. So really a great opportunity to get involved. And as we see on screen there, the Ginetta Super Cup being the opening round, and look at the prizes down to 8th place. There's prizes per championship. So yeah, and also I must point out Portimao is the fourth round there. And then also on screen there, the release of our rig chassis, which I tell you what, who doesn't want a bright, colourful rig chassis up in the bedroom to play on? I mean, bit vibrant, bit of colour, but I tell you what, I've got to say, Dan, the build quality on them things as well, second to none.
I'm very, very intrigued. I may be looking at those because I fancy like a bright pink one or something, or a bright purple or something. I feel. So I might be.
Yeah, we do actually sell at the moment as well. On screen, Mike Yao brilliantly there with the graphics. GT-F1, which is a seat that goes both from GT style to F1 style, with the change round of the mountain brackets at the bottom. You know, extra padding, super comfortable, but also can get them in pink, Dan.
Oh, well, there you go. I'll order two. No, to be fair, it's good again, like to see the even like looking at the seat, it just looks comfortable. It is quite, it's a nice looking piece of kit, and I'm excited to see those get rolled out in the near future. But here we go. So Mick Sutton currently in P8 at the moment, a couple of seconds off of Jordan Brennan's time. But he's not too far off, actually, of Simon Reed. These two have actually been at it, to be fair, Dave. These two have been at it pretty much nip and tuck for the last 3 rounds. Goes a little bit wide, though, going through Murray's. That's definitely going to cost him. He's got, I think that could be Alex Toth-Jones behind him, so he's going to get a bit of a tow.
I tell you what, Dan, look at the times as well. 7th, 8th and 9th. What's that separated by there? That's a 10th them are all separated by. So really, really close down the grid. In fact, James Haskell there. Oh, and a bit of a collision there between, I believe that was Mick Sutton and who was the other driver? James Haskell, maybe. There's Jordan Brennan, look, having to take the void action on the inside. You know, it's not often we see a coming together in qualifying, but it's happened. But I tell you what, the last steps, 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, all separated by 0.3 of a second. That's super close there. And actually, you know, Simon Thorpe previously running probably nearer the back, has actually got himself up into 6th place in qualifying. So great performance by Simon at the moment.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely something that we're going to see. Whether these times are going to come down, I'm sure they're going to. We've got 6.5 minutes left of qualifying to go before we jump into the first of 2 races. But at the moment, yes, Jordan Brennan, he's actually improved on his time as well, though. He's now 7/10 clear of Max Emerson, who's actually been promoted. Actually, no, I'm going to that. Sorry, I'm looking at the timing stream. Well, that's from Max Emerson in 4th. So that's me looking at the timing standings wrong there. So Lawrence Davey, he goes across the line. Does he improve on his 2.624? He does not. No. So that was his 1:17.666. Ooh, 666. Got to watch out for that number. Hopefully he's going to improve on that. 6 minutes left to go in qualifying, but it is incredibly close. Like I said, 0.4 of a second now, or just under 0.4 of a second. Actually separate still 6th to 10th. That's going to be a good battle that I'm intrigued to see going forward. Robbie Stapleford, though, 0.3 behind with Jordan Brennan in the pit. So he's now had to come in for some fresh tyres, and he'll be going back out on track in a few moments' time. What can Stapleford do, though? He takes as much curb as possible going through Nelson. Again, very, very tricky. You've got to be nice and careful going through Brundle and Nelson. It's a tricky complex. And then obviously the infamous bomb hole as they're going through just then, and then into Coram. A very, very fast right-hander that you're always fighting to be on the limit of the car. You want to be on the limit as much as possible. If you get it wrong, though, especially in a rear-wheel drive car, rear end goes around, almost no chance of saving it. So the guys that are all going around at the moment, they're doing very, very well indeed to make sure they can keep the rear of that car in check. Does Stapleford improve? Actually, no, that was an outlap, I believe. So
no, he did.
Oh, he did.
He improved to a 15.2 there, but you know, 15.2. We've got to look at the previous timing sheet, Dan. In practice, 15.2 was top of the timing sheet. So what Jordan Brennan he has done, a 15.0 in qualifying, basically an outstanding lap, really. You know, Robbie will be looking at that going, that is rather quick. Let's get my head down. Let's see if we can do it. But a mighty lap there by Jordan Brennan, and actually Alex Toth-Jones also lapping in a very, very quick and very respectable mid-15. You know, that's definitely going to be a battle to watch for in the race between Alex and Max Edmonds.
I think, yeah, like I said, with 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes left to go, we're really going to have to see how this battles out. But Toth-Jones in the pits, though, so he's going to have to jump in, get some fresh rubber and go back out on track. He's not going to have too much longer, though. Simon Reed riding on board now, goes a little bit wide, compromises himself through Murray's. That's going to slow him down, not only on the exit of this lap, but it's going to slow him down all the way down into turn 1 as well. So that's really not going to help his situation for this lap, but he's going to have at least a couple more left to go. There is James Haskell, the number 669 BMW 235i. He's 0.003 of a second behind Thorpe, and the gap to O'Farrell is about 1.4 seconds looking at it. So going to see how the remaining qualifying develop is. I'm sure James Haskell's going to improve. We've seen some very, very good performances. That's not going to help. That wasn't a commentator's curse, surely not. Not in qualifying, that's not allowed. But yeah, James Haskell definitely not going to improve on that lap. Actually, interesting enough though, I know we've spoken about this before, so track limits obviously defined by the curb. You are allowed to use the curb as an extension of the track, as we have said before. Whereabouts, though, does the lap get invalidated? Is it a straight cut as soon as you drive off, or are there different areas that drivers can utilise and try and cut a little bit more and try and gain a little bit more advantage than others? How does that work in the terms of what the of what a set of course decides that is track limits or that will get invalidated?
So the white line marks the edge of the track, and as you said before, the painted red and white curbs around this track are an extension of that. Basically, 3 wheels outside of that, 1 wheel on the paint is still legal. As soon as you start to dip that 4th wheel, lap invalidated, the game decides it, and does our job for us, basically.
Well, there we go, mate. Absolutely. But if you can get someone to do it.
Yeah, it's by far the fairest way to do it. You know, if everyone's racing the same track with the same rules, with the same computer telling you what's legal and what isn't, everyone's in the same boat, and it's the fairest way of racing.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely. Just noticed Simon Thorpe's line going through there. Looked to be, I don't know, we're going to be interested to see what Jordan Brennan's lap time is. Whoa, that was a big moment through Nelson. Tokyo Drift style going through there. I know he's on pole position. He's only got a couple of tenths in hand though, so we can't be celebrating just yet. Again, another big side. He obviously knows he's on camera, doesn't he? Again, going through Forum, balancing on the throttle again. Don't want to run too wide, which I think that looked to be a tad wide through Jordan Brennan there. Someone's just moved up though. James Haskell has actually moved up now into P6. So what's Jordan Brennan going to do? His last lap, and his pole lap was a 1:15. Are we going to see a 1:14 on the board? Not that time around though, but he's got at least he's got at least 1 more lap, potentially 2, if he can get those in. But Stapleford, the man in P2, he's got 2 tenths to make up. Now, I'm sure Stapleford is not going to be hanging back. He's going to be giving absolutely everything in these final stages of qualifying. He is not going to have 1 more lap though. He's not going to have 2 more laps. He's going to have this lap to finish, and he's going to have 1 more lap after that because the timer will tick down, and that will be it. He's got a car in front of him though. Can't quite see who that is. Potentially, but that could very well hold him up. So this is going to be interesting. Does he cross the line? He doesn't improve though. He's still in P2, a couple of tenths behind. And as well, Alex Toth Jones. I mean, he's got this will be his last lap. He'll have 1 more lap after this as well. So, I mean, to be fair, Dave, there's going to be at least, if Toth Jones can find 4 tenths of a second, that's quite a tall order though. But I'm sure Toth Jones can. He's definitely got some pace left in that car, I'm sure. But more importantly, though, has Jordan Brennan or Robbie Stapleford, have they got more time in the car as well? So,
I'll be truly honest with you, putting down a 1:15.0, that is a mighty lap time, and the same from Robbie. You know, to be only 2 tenths off that, you know, Robbie's not going to be disappointed with the lap he's put in there. That's a great lap, but Jordan Brennan's just found that little bit more on the track and in the car. But you know, you say about Alex Toth Jones, he's 6 tenths down the road, but we know Alex. You know, he knows he's got good racecraft. He knows he's, you know, quick during the races and he can find the gaps. So I mean, this is probably a case of he sat there in third thinking, you know what, that puts me on the inside line going into turn 1, but the second row back, it'll be key to take of any advantage he can of either Jordan or Robbie slightly falling over each other going into the first 2 corners, and Alex, I can guarantee, will be straight there and probably with a move.
I'm sure he's going to get stuck in, isn't he, as all the drivers are going to runs ever so slightly wide going through turn 2, Wilson's corner. But he manages to keep it all in check. That is qualifying over though. So Stapleford has just finished. You can see in the left-hand side timing tower. He's hit the checkered flag. So is Edmondson. So is Farrell, Reed, Haskell, and Thorpe. The only people that can actually make improvements now is Toth Jones, Jordan Brennan. Is he going to try and improve? He's going to want that 14. We know he's going to try and go for the 14. He hasn't got too much longer to do it though. He's got 2 more corners left to go to see if he can do it. And then Mick Sutton as well. He's got 3 tenths to make up to get in front of Haskell. And then, to be fair, another 2 tenths up the road, and he'll gain on Simon Reed as well. But Jordan Brennan comes out of the last corner. Is he going to ditch it in the pits? Yes, he does. So the only person left, really, that's going to make any particular moves on Stapleford or Brennan is going to be Alex Toth Jones. Is he going to ditch it? He does indeed ditch the lap as well. So, that is it. Qualifying done and dusted. And I think, to be fair, Dave, as you say, a mighty lap put in by Jordan Brennan.
Yeah, I'm very, very impressed with that lap time. You know, 15.0 It's ballistic fast, Dan. That is like, well, we'll soon find out when I interview him, but that car must have been on the edge the whole lap round. You know, this car's so pro to rotating on that front end, and it's really quite lively. You know, for that lap time, to hook it all up to be that consistent the whole way around the lap, great lap time. Absolutely indeed. I believe though, Dave, we do have the pole man on currently in the commentary booth. So, I believe without further ado, I will hand you over to Dave Marshall interviewing Jordan Brennan, who was put on pole for round 3 of the One Make Cup 235i series. We do indeed. Is Jordan Brennan there?
Yes.
He is indeed. I've got to ask Jordan, you know, we saw on the practice survey, you know, the lap times, and it was sort of low 15s, but to go in with a 15.0 in qualifying, I take that must have been almost a perfect lap, was it?
Yeah. Well, I thought a 1 was a perfect lap, and then to go and do a low 0, I was very shocked with myself, but yeah, it felt good. Good lap.
Yeah, so I was saying as well how prone this car is to sort of getting rotation on the brakes, and you know, feeling quite nervous in them long loaded corners into the sharper, tighter corners. But you seem to actually use that to your advantage to help the car get sort of straight and then harder on the brake before you can rotate the car.
Yeah, I've never had an issue with the brakes. I have just used them to rotate the car, but for me it's getting on the power of the corners. It just, out of turn 2 around here, it just gets a little bit sideways over that curve, and if you do, you lose loads of time.
Yeah, well, that's going to be probably one of the biggest talking points during the race. You know, that long straight after turn 2, you know, getting the drive out of that hairpin. I take it, you know, you sort of want to protect that inside line and get a little bit over the curve, but you know, when the start of the race is on and you're looking in your mirrors and going defensive, is that where you're really watching it, or do you think the moves will start prior to that and down into the hairpin into turn 2?
Well, I mean, looking at it now, I'm currently sat P2 on the grid. So, well, P1's outside, which isn't good, but I think the moves will happen into the hairpin. So we'll just have to see what happens. But the toe down that back straight is going to be massive, so I think there'll be a slight bit of carnage under the bridge.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing how you get on, Jordan, and best luck, but huge congratulations with putting on pole, and especially with a lap time that really is, I think, quite frankly, alien status. I think we can give you that quite easily there. Excellent lap, and good luck for the race, man.
Cheers, thanks.
So yeah, Danny, he knew that was a good lap.
I mean, to be fair, I think, yeah, as soon as he did it, he knew that was going to be a lap that was going to be hard to beat, though. To be fair, close, though. It was closer, I think, to be fair. With the lap that he put in, it was closer than I think we were expecting. So I'm sure there's a bit more time in there for Brennan. For Stapleford. I'm sure there's a bit more time in there for Toth Jones as well. So, you know, we've got some interesting developments, I'm sure, going through this race. Also, interestingly enough, though, with what Brennan was saying, I think people have got to take it nice and easy going through Brundle, because it is a very, very tricky corner, and you've got a heavy braking zone while turning, but you've got to be pretty heavy on the brakes. So it's not as tricky. Again, it's not as easy as you think. Naturally, you look at it and go, oh, it's the left in a braking zone and then to the right. But because, again, with these cars so heavily based on road cars, hardly any aero at all in comparison to what you'd have with a big GT car, you've actually got to be braking surprisingly early going through into Brundle, but that just upsets the balance of the car. That pushes weight over the front. It wants to rotate. There's so much going on. And then immediately after, you've got to switch all the weight over to the other side for Nelson.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to ask Dan as well. You know, we know these cars are based on road cars. They're not based on a race car. How much slipstream will we actually see here? How much will that actually play a part? There's no big wings here, as we can see. It'd be interesting to know whether, you know, that reduced drag effect, whether that'll actually mean the slipstream isn't as prominent as it can be in some other cars.
Well, this is true, actually, to be fair. This is one of the points we're going to find out, obviously, in a few moments' time. But it's a good shout. I don't reckon the slipstream's going to be that bad. It's more so these guys are going to have to focus on making sure they get a clean exit. Brennan was actually one to hint on that as well. A clean exit, especially going at a turn 2, all the way down the Bentley Straight, is going to be absolutely crucial to ensuring that you can stay ahead of anyone that is behind you. But The lights are on. We're about to get underway for round 3 of the One Make Series BMW 235i by VRRC. Lights are on. When they're going to go out, who is going to get the jump? We're going to find out now. Who is the man that's going to get the jump? It looks to be pretty even Steven. Actually, you know what? It's really even going through into turn 1. That's Stapleford versus Brennan side by side, and then behind that you've got as well, that's Toff Jones and Edmondson as well. They're going to go all side by side, pretty much going through turn 1. What's it going to be like going through turn 2? You just see the time tower's going to be changing furiously. They're both still side by side, 2 by 2 Noah's Ark style, but I think Alex Toff Jones is going to have to concede the position from Max Edmondson. But everyone's gone through really cleanly. It's now going to be it's gone 2 by 2, and it's now a complete train going through. Toff Jones might even lose out to O'Farrell, who's going to have a look at the inside. They're going to go side by side into Brundle. This is not what they want to do with cold tyres. They're going to have to give each other enough room. Are they going to? Who is going to be the person that's going to make any moves going through into Brundle? I think, you know what, he's done it. O'Farrell has got past Toff Jones, so he's lost 2 positions in the space of about 3 corners. Lawrence Davey, bottom right corner of your screen, his car has seen better days already, and he's not even done the first lap. But they go through that with someone going very, very sideways. They managed to actually, by the looks of that, could have been potentially Simon Reed, I think it was, that had a bit of a moment. Actually, no, it was Mick Sutton that had a moment going through the bomb hole. Manages to save it though. O'Farrell spun. How is he going to miss everyone? Everyone misses him just about. That is not what we wanted. That was touring car style on 2 wheels that day. That was exciting stuff, but didn't end well for O'Farrell.
Yeah, so I'll let you get your breath back there, Dan. Yeah, I mean, what a start that was there by Tom O'Farrell, getting up past Alex Toff Jones, reading the road, getting the drive out the corner and perfectly judging it going towards Brundle. What a shame, though, to lose it on the last corner. You know, just take too much of that inside sausage curb and unfortunately getting that bounce in the spin. But you see there, Jordan Brennan, aggressive on that throttle, just getting the back end a little bit out. And you see that gap just starting to open up going down towards Brundle here. Robbie in the lead. I tell you what, Max Edmondson, he's not letting this group get away, is he? He's still in that half a second bracket, a little bit of toe. James Haskell as well also just made a move up on Mick Sutton, up the inside, going into Brundle. Mick Sutton needs to tuck back in here, as he does, follow him through neatly through the corner. Misses his apex a little bit there. Good time here for James Haskell to get his head down, open up a little bit of gap and really try and chase Simon Reed, who previous podium finish in the last race, already in 5th, putting the pressure on Alex Toff Jones.
Yeah, Alex Toff Jones, he can't quite get the car underneath at the moment. I don't think he's nursing damage or anything. He's been pretty clean. So we'll have to see if he can pick up the momentum going forward. But look at that, Stapleford is actually, he's got past Brennan and he's starting to pull a gap. Obviously, the man on pole, Jordan Brennan, is currently in P2 and he's actually being dropped by Stapleford a little bit. But here we go. This is the battle between O'Farrell and Mick Sutton. They're going to go side by side going through into Riches. Who is going to be the person coming out on top? I think it's going to be O'Farrell round the outside of turn 1. What a move that was indeed. Is there going to be a comeback though from Mick Sutton? I don't think there is. He's too far back. As I say that, he tried to have a bit of a look, didn't he? But unfortunately went a little bit wide. That was a great move. Very perfectly timed as well. But to be fair, credit to Mick Sutton for giving him the room that he needed. Yeah,
exactly that, you know, but you're right in what you're saying. That was a very brave move going around turn 1 to go around the outside, leaning on the car well in excess of 100 mile an hour, hoping the guy on that inside isn't going to sort of wash wide or clip any inside curb. In a slight hop, we've seen what happened to Tom O'Farrell, slight hop and you're the next marker before the grass before you end up off track. So huge commitment there by Tom O'Farrell, but look, it's paid off. He's already making moves towards James Haskell. Actually, look at how quickly he's closing the back of James Haskell. You know, Tom O'Farrell, we've seen, managed to get past Alex Toff Jones, so we know what sort of speed he's got. He's definitely going to be looking keen to get into past James Haskell as quickly as he can and looking for that P5.
So yeah, P5, it's not too far away, is it? It's currently actually 0.8 of a second. And the gap between there, though, from himself, from Simon Reed and Toff Jones is 3.3 seconds. So O'Farrell's going to have have a really big move. He's already actually a 10th behind James Haskell. This is going to be the battle going through. He's actually he's making James Haskell go defensive as they go through turn 2 into turn 3. They're side by side. Who is it going to be? No, it's still James Haskell that is the man currently in the lead of that duo fighting for P6. On board now with Max Emerson. Gaps opened up a little now between all the three guys. It goes ever so slightly wide going through Brundle, but manages to keep it all in check for Nelson. Here we are. This is James Haskell. He's going to make O'Farrell go the long way around. Two cars do not go into one space, unfortunately, gentlemen, and that is a big... Oh, wow, that was someone going off as well. That was Mick Sutton, I think, having a small excursion going through Brundle as well. Dave, two cars don't go to one space.
No, I mean, to be fair, that was quite a similar sort of accident as what we saw in the F1 at the weekend, wasn't it, in real life? You know, it was a case of a driver going around the outside with a committed, faster line, the driver on the inside just driving the racing line, and the driver on the outside trying to commit to get back across the track for the braking area, and the inside car is going, well, I've already committed to entering the corner at this speed, where do you think you're going? And that's the result. You know, it paid off for him in turn 1, it hasn't paid off for him in Brundle. You know, definite racing accident in my books. A bit of a shame for James Haskell there to lose out as much as he did through the contact. As actually we see Max Edmondson there showboating a little bit, getting a little bit sideways out the hairpin. You know, it's always nice to see these cars a little bit sideways, isn't it?
Indeed. But actually looking through, so James Haskell's actually got past O'Farrell. I wonder why. I wonder where that happened. It looked to be actually coming on the exit of turn 3. Not entirely sure, because it looked like the gap was actually quite big. I wonder if O'Farrell actually let him back past. He could very well have done. So we've just been told as well that he did indeed. So good sportsmanship there. Again, recognised that there was a potential mistake on his behalf, and then allowed the move to be had back on James Haskell. So the battle continues with those guys yet again. And then behind as well, we've got Mick Sutton, Lawrence Davey actually on a battle going through here. Mick Sutton going in slightly wide on the exit of Nelson as he goes through the bomb hole. Then through into Coram, a bit sideways there, going through. You see Lawrence Davey flashing his lights. I know he wants the position, doesn't he? He wants it sooner rather than later, but Lawrence Davey goes very wide going into Coram. And the battle now, so we've got battles actually kicking off all over the place as well. Tom O'Farrell's got a very, very good run going down into turn 1. I think James Haskell is indeed going to make him go the long way round. Can Tom O'Farrell do it 2 out of 2 round the outside of turn 1? He's going to give it a good old go there, but I don't think Haskell's going to give him as much room as Sutton did. He gets pushed right out wide, manages to keep it just about, but he can't quite make it stick. James Haskell still holds off O'Farrell in P6.
I tell you what, Tom O'Farrell's putting on a bit of a show, isn't it? He's keeping us guessing where he's going to go. And I tell you what, out of the places where you want to overtake, Tom O'Farrell's doing it on all the places you don't want to overtake. So, you know, looking into the hairpin, maybe into the under the bridge is the obvious places. He's trying to do it round the outside of the last corner, out round the outside of turn 1. You know, I bet James Haskell's looking behind going, I don't quite know where he's going to overtake, because he's choosing his places in, you know, where he can, but at that random and, you know, probably not realistically normal overtaking opportunities to go for. So incredibly brave here by Tom, but he's definitely putting on a show.
He is indeed. Look again how much commitment he's got through Coram. He's really, really trying, isn't he? He really wants this position again. Oh, he doesn't want to do that, because that's what he did twice as well. God, he's very, very... He's committed, I think, is the word for is Tom O'Farrell. I think we just saw Jordan Brennan as well get the fastest lap of the race. Just see in the bottom right corner of your screen. But here we go again. Tom O'Farrell James Haskell's going to make him go the long way round. This is going to be a carbon copy of what happened last time. What's going to happen here? He's definitely further on the inside this time than he was last time. And last lap going through turn 1, they're going to go side by side again, going through turn 2 into turn 3. But that's still going to put O'Farrell on the outside for turn 3. He's still not giving up the position though, but he's going to have to. But he's got a very, very good run out of turn 3. Has to back out of it though. Is there going to be the move going through Brundle into Nelson? He's going to have to make the move. Could very well be a last minute lunge. Is Haskell going to go on the defensive? He's not making the move though, so potentially he reckons that O'Farrell... No, yes he is. I tell a lie, he's going to prove me wrong. It's going to be a carbon copy of last time. What's going to happen? It's going to be... Oh, it was nearly the same as last time there, but about just both gave each other enough room. I tell you what though, this is a great battle going on here. He's going to try and go on the outside going through the bob hole. That's not a clever move, but he's going to give it a good old go anyway. And now he's on the outside for Coram as well. I think James Haskell, he cannot shake... He's probably getting sick and tired of actually being able to having to drive on the inside absolutely everywhere at the moment, because Tom O'Farrell just wants to go on the outside. He's not making things easy for him, is he?
No, definitely not. And you know what? This is actually really helping Simon Reed. Simon Reed's got his head down. He's opened up that gap. Nearly 3 seconds now to Simon Reed in front. So this battle in between them isn't going ideal. You know, Simon Reed there was a second a lap faster than 2 drivers behind. I tell you what, Tom O'Farrell is looking for any opportunity to get past outside, inside, the majority of the time the outside, which as a driver just his huge commitment on the outside again, outbraking James Haskell. James Haskell's going to try and hang it around the outside onto the straight. He's got on the power. Look at the power cut Tom O'Farrell had there. Lost the back end a little bit, had the power cut, and look at the straight line difference down to Brundle here. James Haskell's now going to have to do what Tom O'Farrell was trying to do by going around the outside. What result will we see now, Dan?
Well, I don't know. We're going to find out. They actually, do you know what? James Haskell's backed out of it. So Tom O'Farrell, but no, I tell you why he's backed out of it. He didn't actually back out of it. He braked at his normal position. So Tom O'Farrell, they braked a little bit later going through. That's going to be a bit cheeky there. He might have to give their position up because I'm not entirely sure what happened. He didn't really gain much, admittedly, but at the same time, he did. It's arguable that he may have gained an advantage by cutting it, although actually looking at it now, it doesn't seem like he did. So should be racing as normal. But yeah, it was actually James Haskell braked at his normal position. So he made forced O'Farrell into a mistake. Oh, that was a big moment there for James Haskell. That could be the move done and dusted. I don't think James Haskell's going to be able to catch up with O'Farrell with how quick he was looking through. A shame there, because that was a really, really good battle, just over halfway through this race. Yeah, I mean, a great battle, but yeah, I think O'Farrell's got the pace now. It's 1.4 seconds is the gap. So now he's got 3.7 seconds now to catch up to Simon Reed. Not what Simon Reed wanted. Can he hold him off? Probably what it's going to be another 9 laps.
Yeah, probably so. But I tell you what, that there was about, a solid 4 minutes, Dan, of on the edge of your seat, not knowing who was going to end up where. Really good racing from people further back down the grid. So it really just shows the driving standards throughout this grid are brilliant from start to finish. We're seeing here Jordan Brennan's just starting to drop a little bit off Robbie Stiltford now. It's up to 2.3 seconds. The last lap, Jordan Brennan's losing a couple of tenths each lap. Just doesn't seem like he's got that a little bit extra to help him push the pace, as Robbie Stiltford does a 1:15 to 11 during the race with tyre wear and fuel. Fair play, Robbie Stiltford, better than his quali lap, I believe. This guy is really on a mission in this race.
Well, he is indeed. I mean, to be fair, like I said, it was P2 in quali, and then to be able to do this sort of time in race pace and race trim, that's very, very impressive indeed. And at the moment, no one's actually got an answer for him. That's the interesting thing, is no one can actually do anything about it at this moment in time, because Brennan is dropping back from Stapleford and Max Edmondson is still dropping back from Jordan Brennan. So yeah, at the moment, it's Stapleford's running away with it. I'm actually looking at the timing standards. If everyone were to turn your attention to O'Farrell, the gap between O'Farrell and Reed, it has come down. It's now 2.8 seconds. So it's coming down quite considerably. So I think Simon Reed is going to have to, probably sooner rather than later, have a look in his rear view mirrors. But look at that, Max Edmondson as well, just on his lonesome in third place, as is Alex Toth-Jones. He's got 2.6 seconds behind himself and Edmondson. And he's got a 14-second gap, or a 15-second gap nearly, between himself and Simon Reed. So at the moment, these guys, they've just got to try and hit their marks. Although not as easy as actually we have seen in the past. And to be fair, Dave, I'm sure we both know this from personal experience, which is never ideal. Sometimes, even though you're running your own race, it can all go horribly wrong. Obviously, we don't want it to, and no one wants it to. But at the same time, these guys, they've still got to be careful. It's not plain sailing. It's definitely not plain sailing for someone like Jordan Brennan, because again, a mistake. And that's going to allow Edmondson to really catch back up to it.
Yeah, if I'm completely honest, Dan, the times when I tend to make my mistakes is when sort of you go into Cloud Cuckoo and you just sort of know there's no one really behind you and there's no one in front of you to chase, and you end up just sort of daydreaming away on the sim, just, la-di-da, and then next minute, you drop a wheel on the grass, end up with a full armful of lock, and you've lost sort of 4 or 5 seconds. So sometimes it's good position to be in, like where Robbie is at the moment. He's in that 2-second bracket. It's a comfortable lead, but it's keeping him on his toes. It's making him think he knows he doesn't have to push for the outright best lap times. Just sort of getting these average lap times in around what Brennan's doing is enough. He's already done the hard work. He's got past Brennan. It's now just about monitoring that gap and bringing home that win. 6 minutes to go. It's not looking like Jordan's really going to be that much of a threat later in this race.
No, this is true. But again, like I said, we haven't seen anything can happen.
As I say that, Jordan Brennan with the fastest lap of the race.
Well, he's proven you right. He can hear you. He can hear you there, Dave. And I think this could be, whoa, you can see how much he's twisting the car. Wow, that was a great camera angle there. You could just see. To be fair, it didn't look like he lost any time, to be fair. So Jordan Brennan's also found his mojo. Although, can he find 2 seconds worth of mojo? We're going to have to see about how that goes in the next 5.5 minutes. The time has actually gone up, though. It was 2 seconds, now 2.2 is the gap. So it's coming down. I'll tell you what, again, look at Tom O'Farrell with Simon Reed. The gap's now 9/10 of a second. So that gap is coming down so fast. So that's going to be a battle on our hands. What can Simon Reed do? Except a man that got P3 in the last race of the last round. So I'll have to try and defend from O'Farrell, who is looking like a man on a mission in these final 5 minutes of the race. Yeah, I think actually looking at the times, I wonder if Stapleford's going to be responding to that, because the gaps is extended by about 0.3 of a second. So let's see what the times, see what Stapleford does versus Brennan. So I think Stapleford is going to be quicker then. So is he very much controlling this race? That was a 15.3 from Stapleford, a 15.4 from Brennan. So yeah, I think Stapleford at the moment, he's just got the consistency as well. There's just no stopping him at this moment in time. He's just relentless pace, which obviously when you couple that with nigh on qualifying times, equals a very, very quick driver. As we see, that was Edmondson having a bit of a moment there.
Yeah, I mean, as we were saying before, Robbie Stiltford's got that 2-second gap. It's a nice little breather. He doesn't need to push the board out to try and set the fastest outright lap time. He'll want that extra lap because every driver does. Every driver wants an extra point if they didn't have one. But you know what, Robbie Stiltford, he's very mature-minded. He drives very much within himself, and that's exactly what we're seeing at the moment. I hope I don't commentator's curse. I'm touching wood here at the moment, but he'll drive within himself. You can see he's actually opened up that gap a little bit. Jordan was rapidly fast one lap, slightly slower the next. Robbie Stiltford's just putting in them average good lap times every lap, and it's just monitoring that gap. So brilliant drive so far by Robbie, but we'll look down at Tom O'Farrell. Must be absolutely on Simon Reed. In fact, there's been a change of position between Simon Reed there and Tom O'Farrell. I noticed on the previous lap, Simon Reed was actually about a second slower than Tom O'Farrell, and actually Simon Reed now has dropped nearly a second back from Tom O'Farrell. So unfortunately, that's looking there like job is actually almost done and dusted.
Well, I think to be fair, yeah, look at the gap there. That is currently on the screen now, is Simon Reed. You can see the gap physically from himself and Tom O'Farrell. So I have a feeling that was a move made going through someone like Brundle. I probably think was the move that was actually made there. So yeah, Simon Reed, you can again. I mean, at the end of the day, he's got. He's learned. Again, he's probably learned quite a bit from this race as well. But again, it's the pace that you've got with like Tom O'Farrell. It's just. Again, it's just so fast, it's so relentless. He ran a little bit wide though going through Riches there, so yeah, he's trying. He's got a gap of about, I mean, you look at it now, the gap's 18 seconds. Realistically, again, nothing's really going to happen. You've got 2 minutes and 42 seconds left to go, so he could probably just, again, back it off a little bit, drive on, erring on the side of caution. You've always got to be trying to drive now probably within 9/10. P5, he's going to be in the reverse grid though, so that's obviously one thing to consider. So he's going to have, at this point, he's going to have Stapleford, Brennan, Emerson all behind him. So that's one thing to consider. But yeah, he just wants to be driving just nice and conservatively at this point, just to try and make sure he brings it home in P5.
I tell you what I am noticing, Dan, the lap times between Max Edmondson and Alex Toth-Jones, I think it was a particularly poor lap by Max Edmondson last lap. It was a 16, but actually Alex Toth-Jones has also just done a 16 too. Them two drivers, Max Edmondson's not hooked up the past 2 laps. Alex Toth-Jones, he's closed that gap a little bit now to Max Edmondson. It's down to less than 3 seconds, which it hasn't been all race. This is one of them moments where, Max just needs to sort of get back on it, make sure that gap's not going to close too much more in the remainder of this race. And Max should be really happy with the podium. But Alex Toth-Jones, I think, might have just got a little whiff of a podium there, and he might be like, you know what? There's a few little errors starting to creep in. We might have to take advantage of this. And before long, if he ends up on that bumper, this could be a last minute change of position just before the end of the race.
It could very well be. I mean, like I said, yeah, that 2.8 seconds, that's quite a big margin. It's just ticked over to 3 seconds, in fact. Quite a big margin. But then again, we never rule anything out because, as we know, anything can happen. So, yeah, Simon Reed doing at the moment, sitting there in P6. He's got James Haskell, though, 1.4 seconds behind him. I think that gap is starting to come down as well. So I know we've only got a minute left, but we have one extra lap. So I believe Stapleford, he's on to the second to last lap, because when the timer ticks down, we've got one more lap after that.
I've just noticed, you're exactly right what you said. Simon Reed is really starting to get put under pressure here by James Haskell. Going into the last corner, James Haskell is now within that second bracket. This is going to be a definite fight before the line, Dan.
Well, I mean, to be fair, looking at that, though, if he's taken, what was that, average half a second out of lap, He's 9/10 with 2 laps left to go. I mean, that will put him right on the back bumper. Look at that, James Haskell though, 161 from James Haskell. Wow, he's found some pace all of a sudden. Wow, wow.
That's a great last lap, and this is exactly what James needs to do to put his stamp on Simon Reid here. You know, I said this championship battle's really quite intense mid-battle, and this is going to really bring James Haskell up into that top end of that midfield battle. I said James was looking fast in it, and he is starting to prove it now. He's starting to hook the laps up, and he's really starting to make headway into Simon Reid here. But you know, to open back up here to 7/10 of a second, James Haskell needs to find that momentum he had on the previous lap and really make headway, and this could be right on the line going into the last lap on who ends up with 6th and 7th place.
This is very true, but bottom right corner of your screen, who is actually, we've got Jordan Brennan has just set the fastest lap with a 2:15, I think that is on the board. So that is very, very fast indeed. So yeah, Robbie Stapleford, bottom right corner of your screen, is going through turn 3 for the final time in race 1. But on your main screen as well, James Haskell, he's half a second clear. He's taken half a second out of Reid that lap. Well, nearest makes no difference. It's a little bit close actually looking at it. No, he's only taken about 4/10 out. So this is going to have to be an absolutely mega lap from James Haskell. So it's really going to start kicking off. Simon Reid, though, with his fastest lap of the race, 2:69. So he's found some pace as well. Oh, what happened there? I don't think he was anticipating Simon Reid to potentially break that early, go through, or may have outbraked himself ever so slightly, carrying a bit more speed going through into turn 1 perhaps, but that's really put his chances out because he's now 1.4 seconds off of Simon Reid, and he spun into turn 2 as well, so that's definitely not hurt his chance. That's him done and dusty. He's going to have to settle for P7. But Robbie Stapleford, though, 2.7 seconds clear of the pole man, is going to take the race 1 victory here at Snetterton. I'm sure he's going to be very, very happy with that. To be fair, I would be. With the pace that Jordan Brennan had, one person that isn't going to be happy, though, potentially. A good finishing result, but something he would have wanted. He would have wanted that win naturally with Jordan Brennan P2. And then Max Edmondson a few seconds behind in P3. While it was quite spread out there, Dave, we had some really, really good battles. Interesting, though, with James Haskell. I really wanted to... I'm intrigued to see what happened going through turn 1. I'm intrigued to know what happened, because I don't know. It could have been where he may have just outbraked himself, because it looked like he was travelling into turn 1 with a fair old bit of pace.
It didn't, to be fair. We'll have to have a look back at that, because I don't really know what happened there myself. Maybe it was a slight clip of the grass and an overspeed in turn 1, or Simon Reid was up in his mirror and just braked really early. One of the two. It didn't work out for James Haskell, but the reverse grid here is going to see James Haskell start ahead of Simon Reid, and you know, we'll wait and see what happens there. But James Haskell will be thinking, you know what, next race, let's get my head down, look forward, and we can make some real progress here. But yeah, looking at them last laps, I mean, bear in mind the tyres will have gone off, you know, slightly lower on fuel, you know, bit of driver fatigue. Both took 1st and 2nd place there, 1:15.1, and also the fastest lap and the lap record for the 235i in the practice server, a 1:15.01 for Jordan Brennan during the race trim. Outstanding pace by them two at the end there. Max Edmondson at the start of the next race as well, 15.3 best lap. Let's not rule Max Edmondson out, you know, rapidly fast driver as well, seems to have the slight edge on Alex Toth-Jones, you know. These drivers don't want to be tripping over each other, but can show real promise for getting through the grid in race 2.
This is true. This is very, very true. Yeah, there we go. So your race results for race 1: Stapleford, Brennan, Edmondson ran out the top 3 with Toth-Jones, O'Farrell, Reid, Haskell, Sutton, Thorpe, and Davey are your entire grid positions. So probably not too long, we're going to be able to have a chat with our top 3. And then we're going to see what happened for race 2. That was a very, very interesting time going through at the end of the day. That definitely threw up some action, as it always does. You cannot deny that the action that it does throw up is definitely very, very exciting. And yeah, we've got a reverse grid, so cannot wait for that to get underway. But I'm just looking in the commentary box, and we do have our top 3 for race 1. So I will hand you over to Dave Marshall, who's going to have a chat with the top 3 from race 1 here at Snetterton.
Yeah, we do indeed, and we'll go straight to our P3 finisher. You know what, I don't think you'd be that disappointed with it. Max Edmondson, really good solid performance there, good points haul, and seems like you had that edge on Alex Toth-Jones during the race.
Yeah, I had quite a clean start, to be fair. I thought Alex was going to get ahead of me, and then I'd have to try and get past him, but I had quite a clean start, so I've kept on the back of Jordan and Robbie, but overall they were just faster than me, and he slowly just gapped me and I gapped Alex, so it was pretty simple, quite, yeah, race.
Yeah, but I take it it's definitely not going to be that easy when it goes forward into race 2. You know, you're going to have to fight through a pack where, you know, the pace differential is really quite big at this track. You know, is it going to be tactics where maybe you work with Jordan, your teammate, to try and get through the pack? Or is it going to be a case of just everyone to their own and try and get through?
Yeah, just obviously you just need to try and get through as cleanly and quickly as possible. But obviously with this track and with this car, every corner you could possibly put yourself in the wall. So it's just about keeping it clean and keeping it on the track.
Well, great race 1 there, Max, and good luck for race 2 to try and get through that grid.
Cheers.
On to our P2 finisher, Jordan Brennan. Extreme pace there with setting the lap record in the practice server with a 15.01 on the very last lap. I mean, I don't quite know where that came from, but I've got to ask, you know, both you and Robbie seem to have extreme speed towards the end of that race. Is the car getting better as the race gets on?
For me, I just sort of struggled. I'm presuming it was the fuel. I don't know. I just couldn't get the car switched on for like the first 5 or 6 laps. But yeah, towards the end, as it just got the car just got lighter, I don't know, the pace just started coming back.
Yeah, well, it was, as I say, an incredibly impressive time. But Robbie Stapleford, you know, started on the left, on the right hand side of the grid. Sorry, he just didn't have quite the edge to get past him going into turn 1. But it was an incredibly clean start. I take it you're not anticipating quite as an easy job in race 2.
No. Yeah, that was a mega race from Robbie. I had nothing for him there, but yeah, race 2. I'm just gonna have to see what's gonna happen because there's not much I can do with it. I'm just gonna see what happens, push my way through, and hope for the best.
Well, great race 1 there, Jordan, and good luck for race 2. And we'll move on to our P1 finisher, Robbie Stiltford. Not quite enough to pip Jordan in qualifying, but you did enough in the race. Outstanding drive and held that gap of, once you got sort of 2 seconds, just sort of monitored and held it there.
Yeah, definitely. Just a good clean start really, and then as soon as I got the gap I just started to maintain the pace and just keep consistent lap times, and yeah, just didn't have the speed to get fastest lap, but P1's better than the fastest lap, so it's all good.
Well, I've got to ask the same thing as Jordan here. You know, he seemed to find more pace as the race went on. Do you feel the same? Is the car a little bit, you know, maybe not less stable, but just a bit more sluggish and a bit harder to extract the pace out of the car near the start?
Yeah, definitely. I think with fuel it just makes the car a bit more stable, so it's just a bit easier to drive, so you don't really kill the tyres, and then as soon as it just starts losing fuel, you just go quicker and quicker. So.
Well, congratulations on the first win. You know, wasn't enough in quali, but you definitely made it count when it mattered in race 1. And good luck in race 2, mate.
Cheers, Dave.
Well, there we go. So race 1, your race 1 top 3 there. But yeah, the reverse grid is going to throw some interesting stuff in the mix. Obviously, we've got people who were at the back and now at the front, and people that were at the front and now at the back. So at the moment, we've got in the bottom right corner of your screen, Robbie Stapleford. We're going to have an onboard shot with him for the start of this race. I mean, Dave, it's too close to call. We don't know what's going to happen. Anything could happen in these races.
It really can. You know, Robbie Stapleford had really good, consistent pace. Jordan Brennan's got the slightly faster pace. You know, it's going to be between either them. Maybe Max Edmondson's going to come into it as well. But I'll let you go down here for the start of the race and let you take over.
All right, well, here we go. Race 2 is just about to get another way. The lights are on. When are they going to go out? They are green, and who is going to get the jump? It seems to be, again, a really even start. These guys have all really got a really good handle on how to launch these cars, but it's going to potentially go, actually, I thought it was going to go 3 wide, potentially going through turn 1, but Davey is the person that takes, at the moment, an early lead, and he's already, big moment there for Simon Reed and Mick Sutton. They're going to have an excursion. Wouldn't take the cameraman out as you go through. Wouldn't like to be him sitting there. Big moment, though, as they go through. People are getting pushed off everywhere. That's going to be Thorpe that's getting a bit tangled up. There's Haskell. There's, oh my goodness, what on earth has gone on here? That was, and I think one of the persons, well, that's Jordan Brennan. Jordan Brennan's just been tangled in that mess as well.
That's not a safety car.
Good at all. I've just been told there we go. So that is indeed a safety car, and we have had that Dave has gone off to deploy the safety car. There'll be a virtual safety car as well, and there we go on your screen. There is that confirmation. So all drivers now have to go through nice and slow And Davey at the moment, again, the result, a great start. He's got about 6/7 of a second in the space of the first two, the first 2 or 3 corners. And it's now all been undone. The person behind him is Mr. Alex Toth-Jones, and we know the pace that Toth-Jones has got. We know the pace that O'Farrell's got as well as Stapleford. But this is really going to throw the gauntlet up in the air a little bit here, because I'm not really sure when it's all going to go. And I think, to be fair,
we're going live now.
We're all actually live, so we are live already. So the start that Lawrence Davey had, it's all now gone to waste. And Toth-Jones is going to try and make an early move going through. He's going to dive up the inside going into turn 1. That's a brave move on the restart with your tyres cold and your brakes cold. But I think, to be fair, he's actually put Davey off a little bit. He goes slightly wide going through turn 1. That's going to put him in a very, very good position for turn 2. But can Davey hold him off? They both break as late as they possibly dare. I think it's still going to be Davey that's going to take the provisional pole. Oh, no, and Alex Toth-Jones. Again, that was a potential. Just 2 cars don't fit into one space, and that's now shoved the order right around. So Tom O'Farrell now inherits the lead with Stapleford P2, Alex Toth-Jones in P3, and then Haskell in P4. This can go side by side, 2 by 2 again. Noah's Ark style. Look at that going through into Brundle, and then Nelson. That's going to be interesting, but Stapleford manages to get past O'Farrell. So for a brief moment, he was in the lead, and now that has gone back through. So Stapleford, the man taking the top step for race 1, is already up, and just that was Alex Toth-Jones. Who was that behind? That was Mick Sutton having a bit of a look going through the bomb hole potentially, but couldn't quite make it through there. Jordan Brennan, though, he's already made up a position. He's already made up 2 positions actually. So he's got past Max Edmondson and Thorpe. So the next person in his sights is Simon Reed. There we go, there's Max Edmondson there, but he's wanted to get past Jordan Brennan, though, can't quite make it. His car's seen better days, isn't it? So side by side between Brennan and Reed. I think it's actually going to be Max Edmondson might go through. There's a bump there. I thought that was going to be a bump. They're going to try and both get past Simon Reed, but he's not going to give it to them that easily. Well, Dave, I mean, we wanted action, and we've got an action. We've still got more action there. So Jordan Brennan gets past successfully, and I think Max Edmondson might do. He might not. Wow. There's definitely been some action in this race, isn't there?
There has indeed. I think Max Edmondson's car's not that far off getting a reshell. I did notice he just seemed to sort of be a bit of a pinball, really, not any of his fault. Just seemed to sort of be collected between 2 cars either side at the start of the first lap, and ended up just getting pinballed between the 2 of them. So as you can see, I was going to say the front and the back don't look too bad, but actually the rather crinkle cut as well. I think McCoys would be rather proud there. But Robbie Stiltford, like a hot knife through butter, really, has got himself straight up into P1. As you see, Jordan Brennan got tangled up in the start, got a little bit crossed up, lost the back end, got sideways. Even though he's managed to make a reasonable restart of the safety car, he just hasn't gone through the pack like we maybe expect. So maybe a considerable amount of damage there. As we see, I believe that's Alex Toth-Jones who's gone for an excursion there, long route round, big spin there. He's going to be right on the end of the pack, and that's going to have huge championship consequence. I tell you what, this could really mess things up. James Haskell up into P3, Tom O'Farrell in 2nd place. I tell you what, Dan, this could be a championship reversal.
Well, to be fair, it's not going to be far off, is it? Mick Sutton, though, is in P4, but you've got Jordan Brennan breathing down his neck. He's going to go on the defensive, which means Jordan Brennan's going to have to go the long way round. But unfortunately, Mick Sutton's outbraked himself going into turn 2. Couldn't quite get the breakers, though, going into Wilson. And unfortunately, that's a position lost from him. So he now is demoted into P5. You've got Max Edmondson only about 4 tenths away. I'll tell you what, we're only about 5 minutes through this race, and we've had as much action as I can probably take. But I'm sure we're going to have more action through, because we've got people coming up the order. Edmondson's already about 3 tenths behind, so he wants the position from Mick Sutton sooner rather than later. Yeah, Stapleford, he's taken 2.1 seconds out of O'Farrell. He's just gapping them at a rate of knots. So Brennan's up into P4. He's got 1.8 seconds between himself and James Haskell. So let's see how that goes side by side, though, through Coram with Reed and Edmondson. Who is going to be the person out on top? Mick Sutton again, he goes wide, but that's going to put him on the grass. What's going to happen on the rejoin? It's going to be, actually, no, to be fair, I thought he was going to rejoin on the other side of Murray's, but he doesn't manage to keep it all in check.
You know what? I've got to give credit while it's there. Mick Sutton for not managing to go straight across the grass into that driver while you're flat out round that left. Fair play, Mick Sutton. Excellent driving there. And I was actually going to say, just before that slight run wide there, I was really impressed with him. He's a driver who seems to, be improving, all the time. And he ran in top 4 there. Excellent defend against Max Edmondson there. Great drive.
Indeed, he was getting stuck in, wasn't he? Which is what I'd like to say. And to be honest, I've seen obviously Mick Sutton for a while now, commentating on VRRC, and he's really starting to push up. Oh no, Alex Toth-Jones again going through, gets tangled up in an instant. That unfortunately was an accident. It wasn't just on his own. So he now is back down the order. So he tried to make some moves, and he's now been demoted all the way back down again. So that's definitely not good. It's not what Alex thought Toth-Jones would have wanted. So that's really put his championship contention really at peril here. The gap's coming down though. I'm actually looking. Jordan Brennan between himself and James Haskell, currently the man you can see on the screen. Look at that. Jordan Brennan just gone out of shot. Just then, two wheels, all carbon copy, nearly there of Alex Toth-Jones. That's going to put him completely into the clutches, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jordan Brennan makes this move going through. Look at the closing speed, almost like having DRS. But it's
you know what, Dan? I've actually seen James Haskell do that a few times in that last corner now, clipping too much of that inside, losing the back end on power. You know, I've seen him do that a few times now, and it just seems to be one of them line choices where, you know, it would just take him to get that apex a little bit later. As Jordan Brennan's going to try around the outside, actually, the job must have already been done there. James Haskell, you know, maybe you can see there's the faster driver behind, hasn't really put too much of a battle, but I tell you what it has done, because they haven't battled, it hasn't allowed Max Edmondson really to close any more onto the back of third and fourth place there. So James Haskell is probably looking at this going, you know what, this is a really good points haul at the moment and sitting in quite a nice position for the championship.
Yeah, exactly 1.3 seconds now is between Haskell. It's actually 1.1 second now as I was talking. So Edmondson's really sort of gapping the... I think James Haskell may have had a bit of a moment going through out on the exit of Nelson, because that's definitely not what he wanted to do, because the gap's gone from 1.3 seconds to 9.7 of a second in the space of about 3 corners. Look at the gap closing there. Edmondson is not hanging about at all, and it's probably doing why, because he's seen Jordan Brennan get through nice and easy, and he wants a piece of that as well. Look at that James Haskell getting on the exit of Murray's again, just jumping over the curb. Didn't upset the car too much that time around, so he manages to keep it all in check as they go through down at the main straight into turn 1 for another round. Nearly halfway through this race, though, it's started to settle a little bit here at the moment, but at the same time, it's the calm before the storm. We've got a couple of battles that are really sort of going forward. One of the ones that's definitely going to be a battle by the end of the race, if not before, is Brennan versus O'Farrell. Look at the gap. It was 1.6 seconds. It's now 1.2. So this battle here that we've got going on between Haskell and Edmondson is raging on. But the battle between Brennan and O'Farrell, that is starting to heat up already. I know the gap's 1.2 seconds, but look at that. Just gone out of shot has been O'Farrell and Brennan. That's going to be a battle to watch out for, and that's going to be a race to watch out for in these closing stages of race 2. Again, that was a nudge from Edmondson. I think he was expecting James Haskell. He likes riding the curve, doesn't he? He forgets he's might be in a touring car or something, because he does like riding 2 wheels up in the air, doesn't he? And which something for these cars you do not want them to do. I think Emerson's going to try and go around the outside of Coram. That's very, very brave. Tries to get on the inside. Wow. Oh my goodness, they've actually... James Haskell managed to just about leave enough room. I think he would have had to, otherwise contact potentially would have been made. James Haskell gets the run on him, so he's now back into P5. He maintains P4, for the next time around. But look at that Emerson. It's just, you could not fit anything between these two guys. Emerson's going to make him, Haskell's going to make Emerson go the long way round, but I think it's actually going to be done and dusted potentially. James Haskell, he loves riding the curbs, and I think that's going to, well, unfortunately, he's had to concede the position already. So we've seen this a couple of times. I didn't think a move was possible going through in these cars around the outside of turn 1, let alone 3 times we've seen it now, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got to give credit. Tom O'Farrell was probably the king of it, dare I say. But yeah, I was on the edge of my seat there. Fantastic racing by both Max Edmondson and James Haskell there. That move up into the outside, going into the last corner by Max Edmondson, that's one of them moves there. Unless if you're 100% committed, the move's not coming off. And we saw it didn't quite pay off. He didn't get past. But I tell you what, James Haskell read it perfectly. He knew if he closed that apex door, probably getting his quarter turn round there, left Max Edmondson enough room up the inside. Both drivers got an equal run out the corner and meant that they could fight elsewhere on track. Great driving by the both of them, and exactly what we like to see.
Absolutely, yes. Speaking of Tom O'Farrell, let's look at the gap here. This is the battle now for P2. Bear in mind the gap was 1.2 seconds between O'Farrell and Brennan, and it's now 0.3 of a second. in the space of about 4 or 5 corners. So something's happened, I think, with O'Farrell. He must have had a bit of a moment, a small moment going through turn 2, maybe turn 3. And that's cost him big time because Brennan's going to try and go around the outside again. These guys, they do not know they just want to go around the outside all the time. Forget the inside, they want to try the outside as well. To be fair, with all these guys, with how they're defending pretty much spot on. So the only way really to go if they want to try and make the move is round the outside, although I'd be always a little bit cautious as well. I'd almost try and like sit behind and try and force the driver in front of you into a mistake. There's still 8 minutes left to go. And again, with the pace that Brennan's got, sideways completely through Murray's, or almost for the entirety of it, manages to get it all checked up and switches the weight and pushes the weight around and going through into Nelson. Great stuff through there. Both groups and Bombhole negotiate that nice and cleanly. Then going through Coram. Again, is it going to be... It almost looks like it wants to try and go all around the outside. They're trying to get a good position going into Murray's, but that's not going to be a position there at all. And you see, look at the different lines though, Dave, as well. So O'Farrell is actually trying to defend, but in some cases, I don't think he needs to. Like going through Murray's, there's never going to be a move there, not in a million years, unless you're absolutely on the door, on the back bumper of the other person in front. But yeah, it's just Robbie Stapleford is, Jordan Brennan is really playing his cards right here, I think. He's just trying to put O'Farrell into these sort of awkward positions where he's having to defend, even though he was never going to make the move in the first place.
Yeah, you know what? I think Jordan knows he's got a little bit more pace here. And as I say that, Tom O'Farrell's going to hang him out to dry here. Tom O'Farrell with a huge snap of oversteer there. That was just a case of both drivers really, shown the muscle really. Two drivers round the outside of each other, and Tom O'Farrell basically, on my view there, didn't seem to leave enough room going at the left-hander for Jordan to go anywhere. But actually, fair play to Jordan. He obviously thinks it wasn't the fairest of moves, lets Tom O'Farrell back through and wants to do it properly. I was going to say Jordan Brennan here probably knows he's got a little bit of pace on Tom O'Farrell, and he's just wanting to pick his spot that he knows and sort of be done nicely and cleanly. But I tell you what, this is bringing Max Edmondson right up into this picture, and I would imagine that if Jordan Brennan sort of created a bit of a move there, might mean that a bit of gap there is generated for Max Edmondson to try and get through as well.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I was going to say as well. Look at Edmondson. So, yeah, he's not too far off the back of his pack. Absolutely 3/10 apiece between the two. So, I think Brennan needs to just slow O'Farrell up, and they're naturally going to be slowing each other up because they're going to be trying to battle one another. So, Max Edmondson sitting, he's got front row seats, as have we, as they both again go through. Look at the closing speed of Max Edmondson, though. He might even try and go through the middle of the two. I thought he was going to try and make a move. He's actually not. He's given Jordan Brennan a bump. That might not have been the opportunistic moment going through. It's another bump for Jordan Brennan. He's getting battered around. It's like, I can't remember the old TV show. It slipped my mind. Robot Wars. That's it. It's just two cars that are absolutely being battered absolutely everywhere. It's like being around a British touring car race. But the guys all managed to keep it all clean. So Edmondson's actually got past O'Farrell, as has Brennan. So O'Farrell has lost 2 positions in the space of 2 quarters. Not what he wanted at all. Whoa, what
that was an
attempt there. That was so last minute. Oh, that was a Daniel Ricciardo style move. That was something that you could see. You could tell the surprise from both of myself and Dave, because we both just made both made an unintelligible noise there of just a gasp. But I mean, Tom, he doesn't want to give up position easily, does he?
I tell you what, I don't know how Tom O'Farrell sits down on the seat. I tell you, that was some breaking under the bridge there. Probably about as late as you can do with a car on the outside, and you're trying to feed your car up the inside. Fair play, Tom O'Farrell. You know what? He got done by 2 cars in that last lap, and he is not happy about it. Look at this. Really attacking Max Edmondson here. He's going to get up the inside, go towards the hairpin. This is going to be a key of who's going to be later on the brakes, and we've seen how good Tom O'Farrell is. He's going to go for it up the inside of Max Edmondson. Max Edmondson's going to hold it around the outside. Tom O'Farrell has to leave him enough room. In fact, Max Edmondson gets a bit wide. Tom O'Farrell's through. What a move that was. Max Edmondson down to 4th place. Is he going to repay the favour going into Brundle? We'll wait and see, Dan. But that was an unbelievable set of laps there.
That was amazing. That was fair play to both those guys. They're really having a good laugh. You can tell they're enjoying themselves, I think. We're enjoying us. Have a look at that. We got again O'Farrell getting very, very sideways going through on the exit of Murray's going through into Nelson. Almost want to try and use it to like flick the car going through Murray's. You've got to be careful though to not over-rotate the car. I was interested to see though the move was actually made. So when O'Farrell, you saw him jump on the brakes, he then actually released the brakes a bit more because he knew that, well, at that point, Edmondson, he couldn't quite get over. He didn't have enough opportunity to actually get over to defend the line. as Edmondson. That's going to slow up a little bit though. Stapleford, bottom right corner of your screen, fastest lap, 1:15.4. He's had no screen time. I don't think he cares all that much because he's got a 10.5 second lead. But Brennan though, he's put in a good lap as well, a 1:15.1. So these guys are really, again, they're just training fastest laps at this moment in time. So yeah, it was looking, you see though, O'Farrell, he made the move. He then released the brakes a little bit because he looked like he braked a bit too early, or brakes at his normal brake point. He then released the brakes, allowed him to actually pull up a little bit more because he knew that Edmondson he couldn't quite get on the inside quick enough. So again, a really, really good adjustment there. That's one of the things to really take back from that, is the adjustment that he made to make that move was very, very good indeed. But look at this now, Max Edmondson, he's going to try and return the favour now, going through into Murray's for this time around. Who is going to be the person coming out on top? I think, to be fair, O'Farrell, he was going to have to try and give up the position, but he's not giving it up that easily. Oh my goodness, that is close. But look at that, Max Edmondson retakes this last podium position and is now complete role reversal. So O'Farrell is now going to have to be attacking Edmondson, and Edmondson is going to have to now defend from Farrell. But honestly, how close is this? This is insane.
Yeah, I mean, this is driving now that you would just expect to see in a car that is easy to drive, something front wheel drive, nice and stable. I can tell you now, these cars aren't easy to drive, and the way they are racing these wheel to wheel is absolutely fantastic to see. Tom O'Farrell right on the back here. I'm just starting to wonder whether the damage Max Edmondson's got is meaning he's actually really quite slow down the straight. I saw there the gap that Max Edmondson had coming out last corner maybe made Tom O'Farrell get right on the back of him going into turn one. I think Max Edmondson's damage there is restricting his straight line performance, meaning why Tom O'Farrell's managed to get these runs but not to take it away from them. The racing between these two drivers and the racing respect going between them, absolutely exactly what we want to see. How can you not want to be a part of this?
I think that's the thing, is that you always want to be. This is some great racing indeed, and it's still going on. Like I said, at the moment, no one's really had any more screen time because, again, the action is all here. It's all kicking off here. I've noticed that the gap between Simon Reed and Mick Sutton is it's about 0.6 of a second, so we'll have to try and keep an eye on that, see if it closes down anymore. But Edmondson is now leading as well. He's actually pulled a bit of a gap, 0.7 of a second, in fact, on O'Farrell. Could this be the gap that he needed to try and break away a little bit? He's pulled another 10th or so. So I reckon, to be fair, Dave, while the battle was great fun, and I'd like for it to continue, I'm sure Edmondson doesn't want that to happen. And yeah, he's actually pulled a bit of a gap. I mean, look at the time. They were 1,000. Actually, no, sorry, I'm telling a lie. That was me. For some reason, I thought that they were 1,000 apart. They weren't. They were about a second. So ignore me. I'm going to take that back and we'll move on from that very swiftly. Yeah, a second now between Farrell and Edmondson. It's gone up again, though. It's nearly 1.2. I reckon this was the break that Edmondson needed to be able to pull away from O'Farrell in a comfortable position. As long as he keeps it on the track, with 1 minute and 20 seconds left to go, he's going to be, I think he's going to be light and breezy in that position.
Yeah, I think exactly that. Max Edmondson just needed that slight break, slightly less pressure just to get his head down, get the gap. But he knows any sort of slip up here, and Tom O'Farrell, he isn't sitting back. He will have a go at Max Edmondson, and he's battled him hard for the past 3 laps and shown, he can really race with him. So, Max Edmondson's not done and dusted yet. That second gap, all it's going to take is one mistake. But I have to point out here as well, James Haskell, 5th place, great drive at the moment. He had a really good start to the race, and he's proven himself to be front of that mid pack, and this is going to be really helping out his championship status at the moment. But also Mick Sutton here closing the gap onto the back of Simon Reed. We saw Simon Reed was good enough for a podium finish at Thruxton. Mick Sutton here is now right on the back of Simon Reed, took another 10th out of him there on that lap. The improvement that Mick Sutton has really shown here in the VRRC championships, it's really impressive to see.
It is, absolutely. It's great to see. It's great to see the development of all the drivers. And to be fair, the development, it's one of the things that continues, and it's always a never-ending development, I think. And that's the good thing. That's what I like about, I can't remember, I believe it was Lewis Hamilton that said it, and I believe there is no perfect lap. There's no such thing as a perfect lap. It can always be improved in certain ways. And for a 7-time Formula 1 world champion, I think, to be fair, you don't need any more than that. So it's always a constant development, though. But the timer has actually ticked down, so that is it, done and dusted. So where is Stapleford, and are we going to get another lap? Depends where he is. It could very well be as he goes across the line. He might very well take the win. Let's see as he goes across the line. I believe, no, this is
One more
the
lap,
last
yeah.
lap. One
No,
more lap to go.
Will we see here, Dan? Jordan Brennan at the moment still got fastest lap as he did in race 1. You know, Robbie Stiltford goes, I'd rather have the win than fastest lap, but still, that hurts a bit as a driver not to have that fastest lap. So will we see, he's got a 9.7 gap lead. Will we see him really push here on the last lap to try and get that fastest lap? But I tell you what, all them points that Jordan Brennan's getting for fastest lap, quali, it all helps keep that championship close. For all Robbie Stiltford, you know, has got through the pack well in race 2, he got that opening gap. Jordan Brennan's still second there with fastest lap. This is meaning it's keep that championship battle alive, and it's going to still go down to the last round before it's definitely done. And I can see on YouTube, we've definitely got a good following for Jordan Brennan, a lot of good looks and go Team Brennan. So really nice to see people really pushing him on.
Indeed, but look at that. Yeah, Robbie Stapleford, the man of the evening. 2 out of 2. He's got about 200 metres left to go. He's going to take the race win for the second time here at Snetterton in the One Mate Cup. Look at that. You can tell how happy he is, and I don't blame him. 2 out of 2. That was a very, very impressive drive to come from the back of the field. Look at that, Jordan Brennan in second place again. Another P2 from him, but he, as all importantly, still got the fastest lap, I believe. Max Emerson comes home in P3. He did manage to break away from Tom O'Farrell, but to be fair, those guys, I think either way that happened, whoever was in front, they both enjoyed that race, and I don't blame them, because that was exciting to watch, and that was absolutely incredible to watch. I really, really enjoyed that. James Haskell in P5, with Simon Reed in P6. Mick Sutton not too far behind in 7th. And here we got Simon Thorpe coming around Coram for the last time in a car that has seen better days. He goes a little bit wide going through into Murray's, but that is him in P8. And then Lawrence Davey is a few seconds behind in P9. I mean, yeah, man of the evening for me, I think, is just Stapleford. That relentless pace. I mean, 10 seconds. That's a big gap. I know that obviously Brennan had the incident. Brennan had the incident in the start of race 2. And obviously not taking absolutely anything away from Brennan, because that was an incredible drive to especially come through the field, even with the safety car, to come back, work through the field. Like, that was a very, very, very good drive. I mean, Stapleford, though, just had pace that no one could match.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to put who's the best driver, I mean, for me, Robbie Stiltford, best, most consistent driver. Jordan Brennan, best outright pace. But I tell you what, for racing on track, between Max Edmondson and Tom O'Farrell, for me, we've seen multiple battles with Tom O'Farrell, some paying off, some working, some definitely not, as we saw with James Haskell in race 1. But I tell you what, the racing between them two was still absolutely fantastic to see. So a joint racer of the night for me is between Max Edmondson and Tom O'Farrell. Fair play to both of them.
Absolutely, indeed, really, really good stuff, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. But I believe we do have the top 3 for race 2. So, Dave, I'll let you have a chat with them for the final time this evening for round 3 of the One Mate Cup 235i series.
We will indeed. We go down to exactly the same podium that it was in race 1. But I tell you what, Max Edmondson, Tom O'Farrell didn't make that easy for you, did he?
No, obviously Jordan was getting past him. I helped Jordan get past, and then I struggled to get past him. It took me like 5 or 6 laps, and then I just gapped him by the end. But he didn't make anything easy at all.
But I tell you what, I bet you had a smile on your face while doing it, because that looked like a really fun battle to be part of.
Yeah, as soon as I got past him, I was just like, I need to gap him, and then obviously he overtook me again, and then he started gapping me. I was like, oh no. So I got past him, and then he made a mistake, and I was like, alright, I just need to keep it on track and keep it consistent.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we haven't really seen yet. Tom O'Farrell's, really starting to sort of build his pace and be closer to a front runner. It's probably not what necessarily you're expecting from the reverse race grid, but it's exactly what you want as a racer, isn't it? You've still ended up with P3, good championship point haul, kept your championship alive, but to do that with a battle as well, as closely as what it was, it's exactly what you're looking for as a driver.
Yeah, cheers, Dave.
No bother. And we jump to our P2 guy, Jordan Brennan. Just couldn't get through the pack like Robbie, could you? At the start, you had that collision at the start where someone tapped your back end and span you, but you fought back through the grid, put in the fastest lap yet again, taking the point off Robbie Stapleford, and you've really kept your championship fight alive.
Yeah, the start wasn't the best. I just tried to follow Robbie through, but I think someone sort of went for the same gap as me. I just got caught up in that. But as soon as, Tom O'Farrell was very tricky to get past. Yeah, he defended that really well. But yeah, as soon as I'd got past him, I knew I weren't catching Robbie, so it was just a case of just trying to set fastest lap. But
yeah, well, you know what? You put a point in quali. You got fastest lap in race 1 and in race 2. So for all Robbie's gone and got 2 first places, you're really keeping that championship battle alive, and it's definitely going to go down to the last round of who's gonna claim top spot.
Yeah, hopefully we'll see.
Good racing, Jordan, and looking forward to see what you do in round 4.
Cheers, thanks.
And on to our P1 finisher, Robbie Stiltford. Almost a perfect night. You can't really complain with the way that's gone, can you?
Yeah, definitely. Just really got a really good start, and then just made it was pretty easy for me. I had some more pace in the tank, but just kept it easy and didn't want to make any mistakes and spin it. But yeah, 2 wins, and unfortunately didn't get the fastest lap, but 2 wins is better than nothing.
That's exactly true, and I guess I'm not going to take it away from you. A fantastic drive, but probably a little bit on the boring side of it. You know, your 10-second lead in race 2, you're probably just driving in open air, going, "Oh, there's still 15 minutes left of the race now." But I mean, you literally got through the grid there like a hot knife through butter at the start, straight through into first place. And you know, I guess that was it calculation, or just things just worked, you know, where they should at the start of the race, I guess.
Probably a bit calculated, but I think it just worked in my favour, and I just got through like cleanly. And then just as soon as I hit the front, and I just got a big enough gap to Jordan and Tom, because Tom started defending like a good one. And yeah, they just started cruising then, just didn't want to make any mistakes again.
Yeah, well, you know, that's helped open up a 9-point lead in the championship going into round 4. You know, it's still not probably comfortable enough for you to relax into round 4, but it's definitely looking in your favour. I take it, you know, it's still going to be the same approach going to round 4, just flat out maximum commitment and see what happens.
Yeah, maximum commitment, make no mistakes, and just hopefully have 2 clean races.
Well, great racing tonight, Robbie. Good points all for the championship, and looking forward to seeing what you do in round 4.
Cheers, Dave.
See you in a bit.
Well, there we go. Race 2 and round 3 done and dusted for this evening. I tell you what, that battle between Emerson and O'Farrell, I thoroughly enjoyed that. But next time out, though, the last round, Alton Park. Now, Alton Park, that's a very good track, and I've actually really I've done a bit more commentary, a bit more racing on it, and I really enjoy that track, and that's going to throw up some really good racing.
Yeah, it for me, it is one of the drivers' tracks. You know, real life, sim life, Alton Park always goes down well. It's incredibly bumpy on this game. You know, not a lot of room for runoff either. There's a lot of close walls, so yeah, I'm expecting quite a lot of carnage. I've just had a message from Mick Sutton there on the grid saying excellent light, worth the racing, but he's moving house, so he won't be here next week, unfortunately. But good luck to Mick Sutton there on the move, and we'll look forward to seeing him in League of Champions too.
Absolutely, we will indeed. And yeah, like I said, League of Champions 2, that's going to be exciting. That's not too far away. That's actually really quite close, to be fair. So,
it is very close. And anyone who, you know, is looking at tonight and thinking, you know, I want to be a bit a part of this, you know, go on our Facebook group on Virtual Reality Racing Club, and then go through the Discord, and it'll tell you what's on, how to join up, you know, all of that sort, and join the community, get involved. But also, you know, the launch of our rigs, you know, anyone looking for a well-built, sturdy, something a bit different in the chassis, a bit of colour. If you don't want colour, you can go for black, and a good competitive price and excellent build quality. Go on the website and take a look.
Absolutely. Well, I definitely think I might be taking a look at that as well, because I'm in the hunt for a new rig, so you never know. But no, brilliant stuff. It's been an absolute pleasure, Dave. As always, really good fun. And again, thank you to VRRC for having me along. But we do have to wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for watching, for tuning in, and for supporting what has been a very good evening's worth of racing. Join us next week for the final round of this 235i One Make Cup Series at Alton Park. I can't wait. And yeah, well, all that's left to say is actually, before we do go, big thank you as always to Mike Yout on broadcast. Absolutely fantastic as always, providing us the action that is there. But everyone, until next time, as always, take care and stay safe.